That night, my son's voice cut through the celebration like a blade. "Get out, Mom. My girlfriend doesn't want you here." He screamed it in front of 200 guests, and in that moment, I understood a painful truth. Some words had never be forgotten and never forgiven. My name is Emily. I'm 57 years old, and this is a story of how a wedding tore apart a family, but ultimately saved my life. It was supposed to be the day we had all been waiting for. Months of meticulous planning had led to this moment. The ranch garden overflowed with white flowers, their petals catching the golden sunset light. A string quartet had been playing since dusk, filling the air with elegant melodies. Tables were draped with linen cloths I had embroidered myself during countless sleepless nights, each stitch a labor of love. Everything looked absolutely perfect. My son Daniel was marrying Sarah, that girl with the piercing eyes and practiced smile who had appeared in our lives 2 years ago and changed everything. I wore the royal blue dress my mother had worn at her own wedding decades ago, a treasured family heirloom. My hair was swept up in an elegant bun. I wanted to look dignified, presentable, exactly as the mother of the groom should look. When I arrived at the reception hall, Sarah's eyes found me immediately. She said nothing aloud, but I watched as she leaned close to Daniel and whispered something in his ear. His expression shifted instantly. He walked toward me with quick, determined steps, his jaw clenched tight. I recognized that look. It was the same expression he'd worn as a child when he knew he'd done something wrong, but refused to admit it. "Mom," he began, lowering his voice as he approached. "Sarah says that your dress is overshadowing her, that the blue is too flashy." I felt as if someone had punched me in the chest, but I forced myself to take a deep breath. "It's okay, son. I can change if you want." I brought another dress in the car. "No, Mom." His voice turned hard, unfamiliar. "It's better if you just leave." "What?" "Sarah is very nervous. She says your presence makes her tense, that you've always judged her." The hall was packed with guests. Music continued to play. People chatted and laughed, completely unaware of what was unfolding just 3 meters from the main table. "Daniel, I'm your mother. I organized this wedding. I paid for half of everything here. And that's why you think you have a right to ruin my wife's day," he shouted suddenly. The hall fell silent. Every conversation stopped. All eyes turned toward us. And then he said it loud, clear, in front of everyone. "Get out, Mom. My girlfriend doesn't want you here." I felt something break deep inside me, something fundamental and irreparable. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply nodded, picked up my purse, and walked toward the exit with whatever dignity I could gather. Nobody stopped me. Nobody followed me. I got in my car and drove back to the ranch in silence. The keys hung around my neck as they always did, the same keys my father had given me before he died, along with the land, the house, the legacy of 4 generations. The same keys Daniel had wanted ever since he got engaged to Sarah. When I got home, I took off the blue dress, folded it carefully, and put it away in the closet. I didn't sleep that night. But when the phone rang the next day and I saw his name on the screen, I knew everything was about to change forever. I took a deep breath and answered. Sometimes we trust the wrong people far too much. Have you ever been deeply disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. Mom. His voice sounded exhausted on the phone. Can you come to the ranch? We need to talk. I hung up without answering. I sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, the same strong coffee I used to make for Daniel when he was a boy and would wake up early to help me with the horses. That's how it was before. Before Sarah arrived, my son and I were a team. After his father died 15 years ago, it was just the two of us and the ranch. We learned to survive together, to rebuild our lives from the ashes of grief. Daniel was only 12 when I was widowed. He was a quiet boy with big hands and sad eyes who tried so hard to be strong for me. Mom, I can fix the fence, he would tell me, carrying tools that were heavier than he was. No, my love, you're still just a child. Not anymore, Mom. I'm the man of the house now. And he tried. God knows he tried with everything he had. We grew up together on this land. He learned to herd cattle, to repair tractors, to negotiate with suppliers when I didn't have the strength. He would hold me when I cried at night, when I missed his father so much I felt like I couldn't breathe. Everything will be okay, Mom. I promise. And he kept his promise. He became a man here, between these adobe walls, under the mesquite trees my grandfather had planted decades ago. When he finished college in the city, he came back home. Mom, my place is here with you at the ranch. I can't describe how happy I was to hear those words. We worked side by side every day. I handled the accounts and administrative matters. He took care of the cattle and the physical labor. In the evenings, we would sit on the porch watching the sunset, sharing coffee and sweet bread. You know, Mom, someday my kids will grow up here just like I did. They'll run through these same yards. They'll learn to ride the same horses. I hope so, my love. I hope you find a woman who loves this land as much as we do. He smiled that genuine smile I loved. I'll find her. I promise. But it didn't happen that way. He met Sarah in a city bar during a business meeting. She was a business administrator. Successful, modern, sophisticated. She wore expensive high heels and designer. Perfumes. She talked about investments and returns on capital, about portfolios and profit margins. The first time he brought her to the ranch, I saw the disappointment flash across her face before she could hide it. "This is where you live?" she asked, looking at the old walls, the dark wood furniture, the black and white photographs of my grandparents. "This is where we live," Daniel corrected her proudly. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Sarah smiled, but her eyes told a different story entirely. From that day forward, everything changed. Daniel started coming home late. He stopped sitting with me on the porch for our evening talks. He began discussing selling cattle, modernizing operations, turning the ranch into an event venue for weddings and parties. "Mom, Sarah's good ideas. We can make a lot of money. This isn't a company, Daniel. It's our home." "It's both, Mom. We have to be realistic." That word, realistic. He had never used it before, not in that dismissive tone. The keys to the ranch hung from my neck on a simple chain, the same ones my father had given me before he died, with tears streaming down his weathered face. "Emily, this land is your inheritance. Don't let anyone take it from you, not even your son." At the time, I didn't understand why he said it with such urgency. Now I did. The phone rang again. It was Daniel calling back. This time I answered. "As I tell you this story, I wonder where you might be listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. Mom, please, I need the keys to the ranch." His voice was different, colder, mechanical, like he was reading from a script someone else had written for him. "What do you need them for, Daniel?" Silence filled the line. I heard voices in the background. A woman's voice. Sarah and I want to make some changes. You know, modernize a bit. Maybe remodel the main room. Change out some of the old furniture. That old furniture was made by your great-grandfather with his own hands. Mom, please don't start. Yesterday was enough drama." "Drama?" I felt my voice begin to break. "You kicked me out of your wedding, and I was the one causing drama? You decided to wear that dress knowing. Daniel, it was your grandmother's dress. The same one she wore when she married your grandfather in this very ranch that you now want to remodel." Another silence, longer and heavier than before. "Mom, things change. Traditions change. Sarah is right. We can't live in the past. Sarah is right." Those 3 words had begun to define my son ever since he met her. "When are you coming home?" I asked, trying to change the subject to safer ground. "That's the thing, Mom. Sarah and I aren't going to live there anymore. We're staying in the apartment in the city. It's more practical for her work." I felt as if all the air had been knocked from my lungs. "But you said you would raise your children here, that this was your home. And it is. But I also need to build my own life with my wife." My wife. He no longer said her name with affection. He said it like someone signing a business contract. "Then why do you need the keys?" "Because legally it's my house too, Mom. My father left it 50% to you, 50% to me. There was the truth laid bare, the fracture in our foundation. His father had indeed left him half of property in the will. But the keys, the control, the administration, he left all of that to me with a specific clause written by our lawyer. Emily will decide the future of the ranch as long as she is alive and of sound mind. Daniel will receive his share only when she determines he is ready. My husband knew me well. He knew I would never sell. He knew I would protect this land, even from our own son, if it became necessary. The keys stay with me, Daniel. Mom, don't be childish. We just want to make some arrangements. Maybe rent the ranch for events, weddings, quinceañeras, sweet 16ths. We could generate substantial extra income. Turn our home into a business? It's an opportunity. Sarah already spoke with an architect. We could expand the garden, build a new terrace, install a hall with air conditioning. No, Daniel, this house is not for sale. It's not available. It's not a project. But it's mine, too. That scream, that tone, it was the voice of a stranger. Your father left you this land protected, not to exploit it for profit. My father is dead, Mom. He's been dead for 15 years, and you're still living as if he's coming back tomorrow. I fell silent. His words cut through me like knives, each one finding its mark. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean... Yes, you did. My voice came out calm. Too calm. And that's fine. You're right. Your father is dead. And I have lived all these years taking care of what he loved, what he built, what he dreamed for you. Mom. But maybe you're right. Maybe it's time for each of us to live our own life. What do you mean? I mean the keys stay with me. The ranch remains my responsibility. And you can build the life you want somewhere else. Are you kicking us out? No. I'm giving you what you asked for, your space, your independence, your own life. I heard Sarah talking urgently in the background, her voice sharp and annoyed. Daniel answered her in a low voice I couldn't make out. Mom, Sarah says you're being selfish, that you're clinging to material things instead of... Daniel, I interrupted him firmly. Yesterday, when you yelled at me in front of all those guests, when you asked me to leave your wedding, there was a lady sitting near me. I didn't know her, but before I left the hall, she took my hand and told me something. Do you know what she said? What? She said, Ma'am, when a son chooses between his mother and his wife, he has already made his choice, and you must respect that choice. But you must also respect yourself. Mom, this isn't a competition between you and Sarah. No, my love, it's not. Because in a competition, both sides want to win. And I don't want to compete anymore. I just want peace. And the keys. I touched the necklace where they hung. Cold, heavy, full of history and meaning. The keys stay where they've always been, with me, until the right time comes to hand them over. And when will that be? When you have a heart that deserves them. I hung up before he could respond. I sat in the kitchen for hours afterward. The coffee grew cold in the cup. The afternoon shadows began to fill the house with darkness. I walked through the empty hallways, touching the adobe walls, looking at the old photographs hanging on them. My father in his Sunday best. My mother with her embroidered silk shawl. Daniel as a child, grinning widely while riding his first horse. In my husband's study on the wooden desk lay the last letter he had written to me before he died. I had read it so many times that I knew every word by heart. Emily, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer with you. Forgive me for leaving you alone with so much responsibility. Take care of the land. Take care of our son. But above all, take care of yourself. Don't let anyone make you feel less than what you are, the strongest woman I have ever known. I love you always. That night, for the first time in 15 years, I didn't cry for my dead husband. I cried for my living son. Because some pain is worse than death, like watching someone you love transform into someone you no longer recognize. The keys hung from my neck, and I knew that I would soon have to use them in a way I never imagined possible. Have you ever had to choose between love and self-respect? Tell me what you decided. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that teach us the most valuable lessons. 3 days passed without Daniel calling me. 3 long days where I woke up each morning hoping to see his truck coming up the dirt road. 3 days where I made extra coffee just in case he arrived unexpectedly. 3 days where I caught myself looking at the phone every half hour, waiting for it to ring. On the 4th day, I decided that pride was not worth more than my relationship with my son. I called him. Mom. Daniel. My voice trembled despite my efforts to control it. Can we talk? Silence. I heard him say something to someone else. To her. Sure, Mom. What's up? Not over the phone. Come home. I'm inviting you both to dinner. You and Sarah. I want us to start over. More silence, background voices, a whispered argument. Sarah says she's not sure if it's a good idea. I swallowed the lump forming in my throat. Please, son, let me do this right. Let me get to know her better. Maybe I haven't been fair to her. The words burned my mouth because I didn't truly feel them. But I needed to say them. I needed to bridge this terrible gap that had opened between us. Really, Mom? You mean it? Really? Come tomorrow. I'll make your favorite chicken stew and rice pudding for dessert. I heard his voice soften. My boy was still in there somewhere, buried under all those new layers. Okay, we'll be there tomorrow around 7. Perfect. I'll be waiting. I hung up and stared at the kitchen around me. The old iron stove where my mother had taught me to cook. The clay pots I had inherited from my grandmother. The hand-painted tiles we had brought back from Santa Fe when my husband and I got married. Was I really willing to give in, to negotiate my peace for his presence? Yes, I was. Because that's what mothers do. We bend, we break, but we don't let go of our children. I spent the entire next day preparing dinner. I ground the spices with my own hands, the way my mother had taught me. I slow-cooked the chicken until it was perfectly tender. I set the dining room table with the embroidered cloth, beeswax candles, and the talavera dishes we only use for special occasions. I put on a simple dress, beige, discreet, nothing that could possibly steal anyone's spotlight. I tied my hair back in a modest bun. I wore the pearl earrings my husband had given me for our 10th anniversary. The keys hung from my neck, hidden beneath the dress, pressing against my chest. At 7:15, they arrived. When I saw Daniel's truck parking in front of the house, my heart sped up like I was a little girl waiting for her father to come home. How pathetic, I thought, but I couldn't help it. I went out to greet them. Daniel got out first. He wore a crisp white shirt and dark jeans, his hair carefully combed with gel. He looked handsome. He looked different, like an actor playing the part of my son rather than actually being him. Sarah emerged next from the passenger side. She wore a tight wine-colored dress and high heels that seemed impractical for a ranch visit. Her hair was straight and perfect, her makeup flawless. She carried a designer bag on one arm and her phone in her hand. "Good evening, Emily," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Sarah, I'm so glad you both came. Please, come in." Daniel gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. It was perfunctory, forced, nothing like the warm hugs we used to share. "Smells good, Mom. It's your favorite chicken stew." They entered the house. Sarah looked around with that expression I had come to know all too well. The look of someone evaluating and calculating how much every piece of furniture, every painting, every piece of history was worth in monetary terms. "How quaint," she finally said, her tone suggesting the word was not entirely a compliment. "The house is 120 years old," I explained, closing the door behind them. "My great-grandfather built it when he first bought this land." Wow, it definitely has character. They sat in the living room while I finished serving dinner. From the kitchen, I could hear them talking in low voices, nervous laughter, uncomfortable silences that spoke volumes. When I returned with a pitcher of sweet tea, Sarah was taking pictures of the living room with her phone. "Do you like the decor?" I asked, trying to sound friendly and interested. "Oh, yes. Yes, it's very authentic. I was just taking some pictures to send to my cousin. She loves vintage style. Vintage. As if my entire life were nothing more than a Pinterest trend, something to be admired from a distance but never truly lived. Dinner is ready. Come to the dining room." We sat at the long wooden table that had hosted countless family meals over the decades. Daniel took his usual spot to my right. Sarah sat across from him. I served the plates carefully, making sure everything looked perfect and appetizing. "Enjoy," I said, sitting down at the head of the table. Daniel tried the stew. He closed his eyes in obvious pleasure. "God, Mom, nobody makes stew like you do." I smiled genuinely for the first time in days. "I'm glad you like it, my love." Sarah took a small, tentative bite. She chewed slowly, deliberately. She put her fork down on the plate with a soft click. "It's good, though I can't eat much spice. It upsets my stomach." "It's not that spicy," I said, "but I can get you something else if you'd like." No, it's fine. I'll eat what I can." Silence descended over the table. The wall clock ticked off each second with unbearable clarity, a sound I had never noticed so distinctly before. "Well," I said finally, breaking the awkward quiet, "I wanted you to come because I want to apologize." Daniel looked up sharply. Sarah did too, her eyes narrowing slightly. "I was unfair to both of you. At your wedding, with everything." The words came out mechanically, rehearsed in my mind but still difficult to say aloud. "This is your life, your marriage, and I must learn to respect that." Sarah smiled for the first time, a genuine smile that transformed her face. "Thank you, Emily. That means a lot to me. To us." Daniel reached across the table and took my hand. "Mom, I went too far, too. I shouldn't have yelled at you, especially not in front of everyone. That was wrong. It's in the past, son. The important thing is to move forward from here." "Exactly," Sarah chimed in enthusiastically. "Move forward. New beginnings for everyone." We toasted with sweet tea like a normal family, as if nothing terrible had happened, as if we could simply erase the past and start fresh. After dinner, while I was serving the rice pudding I had made specially for Daniel, Sarah stood up. "Will you excuse me? I need to use the restroom." "Of course. It's the second door on the left down the hallway." She left. Daniel and I were alone together for the first time that evening. "Mom, thank you for doing this. I know it wasn't easy. Nothing is easy when it comes to you, my love, but it's always worth it." He smiled. "My boy," still there beneath everything else. "Sarah is a good woman, Mom. You just need to get to know each other better. Give her a chance." "I know, and I'm going to try. Really." We talked for a while longer. He told me enthusiastically about their honeymoon in the Caribbean, about their plans for decorating the apartment, about a new job Sarah had gotten at a prestigious multinational company. Everything sounded perfect. Too perfect. Sarah was taking a long time. Longer than seemed normal. "Is your wife okay?" I asked, suddenly concerned. She must be touching up her makeup. You know how women are. I stood up. "I'll go check if she needs anything." I walked down the familiar hallway. The bathroom door stood open, the light off, the room empty. "Sarah?" Silence greeted me. I kept walking, a strange unease growing in my chest. I passed by my husband's study. The door was slightly ajar, which was unusual because I always kept it closed. I pushed it open slowly. Sarah was inside, her back to me, holding her phone up. She was systematically taking pictures of the desk, of the open drawers, of the documents that were spread across the table. Documents I distinctly remembered leaving neatly stacked. "Sarah." She spun around, startled, her face going pale for a brief second before she quickly recovered her composure. "Oh, Emily, you scared me." She laughed nervously, her hand pressed to her chest. "I'm sorry. I just saw this room and it seemed so interesting. All these old things are fascinating. Is this your husband's study?" It was, "Yes." "Sorry." She put the phone in her expensive designer bag with deliberate casualness. "He had very nice things. I just love vintage items. They're so authentic." There was that word again, vintage, reducing my husband's life, his work, his legacy to a trendy aesthetic. "This room is usually locked." The door was open. I thought I could come in and look around. "It's fine. Don't worry." I forced my voice to remain calm. "Let's go back to Daniel." We returned to the dining room together. Sarah sat down as if nothing had happened, smiling, relaxed, completely at ease. But I wasn't. My mind was racing, cataloging everything I had seen. We finished dessert with superficial conversation that felt hollow and performative. Sarah praised the house 3 more times with that same artificial enthusiasm. Daniel talked about his plans to help me with the ranch's maintenance. Maybe we could hire someone to paint the exterior walls. Mom, they look a bit neglected. They're that color because it's traditional whitewash. That's how it was done originally. But we could modernize it, give a more contemporary look. Contemporary, modern, vintage, all words that meant the same thing in Sarah's vocabulary. Your life is obsolete and needs to be updated or replaced. At 10 o'clock, they finally left. Thanks for dinner, Mom. It was delicious. Anytime, my love, this is your house. Sarah hugged me, a cold, calculated embrace that felt more like a business transaction than genuine affection. Thank you for giving us another chance, Emily. It means a lot to both of us. I watched them drive away down the dirt road. The truck's taillights disappeared among the trees until darkness swallowed them completely. I closed the door. I walked straight to the study without hesitation. On the desk, the document my husband had left carefully organized were now moved slightly, almost imperceptibly to most people, but I knew every inch of that space, every paper's exact position. Someone had definitely gone through them. I opened the main drawer with trembling hands. The property deeds were there. The will was there. The land titles. Everything appeared to be in order at first glance. But something was missing. The yellow envelope. The envelope where my husband had kept an important letter. A letter he had made me promise I would only open if someone ever tried to take the ranch from me. I searched frantically through all the drawers, the shelves, behind the books, in every possible hiding place. It was gone, completely gone. A chill ran down my spine, spreading through my entire body. I touched the keys hanging from my neck, and for the first time, I understood with absolute clarity that I wasn't being paranoid or overly suspicious. I was being watched. I was being studied. I was being carefully measured to determine how much longer I was going to be an obstacle in someone else's calculated plans. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the study with all the lights off, staring out the window into the darkness, wondering how much time I had before they tried to take everything I had left. As I tell you this part of my story, I wonder where you might be listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. I'd love to know who's hearing these words. The next morning, I decided to search the entire house for the yellow envelope. I checked every closet, every box in the attic, every corner where my husband might have hidden something important. Nothing. The envelope had vanished completely. I was about to give up when the doorbell rang unexpectedly. It was Mr. Lawson, our family lawyer, a distinguished man of 70 with a white mustache and an impeccable suit that always smelled of pipe tobacco and Old Spice. Mrs. Emily, good morning. May I come in? Mr. Lawson, what a surprise. Of course, please come in. We went into the living room. I served him coffee in my best cups. He sat down with that particular seriousness lawyers have when the news they're carrying isn't good. Emily, I'm here because I received a very strange phone call yesterday. Strange? From whom? From your daughter-in-law, Sarah. I felt my stomach churn uncomfortably. Sarah called you? Yes. She told me that you had asked her to contact me, that you wanted to review your husband's will, that there were questions about the property distribution. I never asked her to do any such thing. Mr. Lawson nodded slowly, unsurprised. I imagine as much. That's exactly why I came to see you in person. He took a sip of coffee before continuing. Emily, that young woman asked me some very specific questions. She wanted to know if Daniel's 50% ownership was transferable, if he could sell his share without your consent, if there was any clause in the will that gave you absolute power over the ranch. And what did you tell her? I told her that such information is confidential, that I can only discuss it with you or with your son in your presence. She became quite upset when I refused to answer. He set down his coffee cup carefully. Emily, is something going on that I should know about? I told him everything. The wedding, the shouting in front of all those guests, the dinner, the photograph Sarah had been taking in the study, the missing yellow envelope. Mr. Lawson listened in complete silence, his brow furrowing deeper with each revelation. This envelope you mentioned, was it the one containing your husband's letter? Yes. Do you know what it said? I know your husband asked me to draft a document for him years ago, shortly before he died, but he never told me what it contained. He only asked me to certify his signature and keep it sealed in a yellow envelope for safekeeping. Do you have a copy? No. Your husband was very clear about that. Only one original, to be kept in your possession. He told me it was a protection, an insurance policy. Against what? Mr. Lawson looked at me with those tired eyes that have witnessed too many family tragedies over the decades. Against this, I suppose. Against the day when someone tried to take what is rightfully yours. He left half an hour later, but not before issuing a warning that made my blood run cold. Emily, be very careful. I've seen cases like this before. When there's substantial money and property involved, people change dramatically, even family members. Daniel isn't like that. Daniel, perhaps not. But Sarah, he trailed off meaningfully. I didn't answer because I had no good answer to give. That afternoon, I received a text message from Daniel. Mom, Sarah wants to invite you to lunch tomorrow. Just the two of you, to get to know each other better. What do you say? Something deep in my gut told me not to go, but something stronger, perhaps hope, perhaps desperation, told me I needed to know what was really happening. Of course. What time? 2:00 at the Hacienda restaurant. Ironic, wasn't it? The Hacienda restaurant for this particular conversation. I'll be there. The next day, I dressed with great care. Black pants, white blouse, a simple blazer. Nothing flashy or memorable. The keys stayed under my blouse as always. Their familiar weight a source of strange comfort. I arrived at the restaurant 5 minutes early. Sarah was already there, sitting at a prime table by the window, phone in hand, a glass of white wine positioned in front of her. She looked relaxed, confident, like a chess player who already knows exactly how the game will end. Emily, how punctual. Please, sit down. I sat. I ordered mineral water, not wine. Thanks for coming, Sarah said, putting down her phone and giving me her full attention. I know things between us started badly, and I genuinely want to fix that. Me too. Good. Because look, Emily, I am not your enemy here. I know you think I came to steal your son away from you, but that's not it at all. I came to love him, and that includes respecting his family. She sounded sincere, almost believable. Almost. I'm glad to hear that. And that's why I want to be completely honest with you. She leaned forward conspiratorially. Daniel is stressed. Very stressed. He feels trapped between you and me, and that's simply not fair to him. I have never asked him to choose between us. I know you haven't explicitly, but he feels he has to anyway, especially with this whole issue about the ranch hanging over everything. There was the real reason for this lunch, the issue of the ranch. Emily, we both know that property is huge, beautiful, absolutely full of potential, but it's also a tremendous burden. It costs money, time, and enormous energy to maintain properly. Daniel tells me you do everything alone, that you don't accept help, that you're clinging to something that might honestly be too much for you to handle now. I took a deep breath, counted slowly to 5 in my head. The ranch is my home, Sarah, not a burden. Of course it's your home. No one is saying otherwise. She smiled that practice smile. But think about it realistically. You're alone in that huge house now, without Daniel nearby, without anyone to help you. Wouldn't it be so much easier to sell it, or rent it out, or do something actually productive with all that space? Something productive like what? Like a boutique hotel, for instance, or an exclusive event venue. I have excellent contacts in the hospitality industry. We could do something absolutely incredible, modern, profitable, sustainable. You would receive your share of the profits without having to worry about any of the maintenance or operations. And who would manage this operation? Sarah smiled more broadly. Well, I do have considerable experience in business administration. We could form a partnership. You put up the property. We put in the work and expertise. Shared profits. Everyone benefits. And the keys? Sorry, the keys. Who would have them? Her smile faltered for just a second, barely perceptible. Well, obviously we would need full access to do the necessary remodeling to show the place to potential clients and event planners. So you would live there? Not necessarily live there permanently, but we would need complete use of the property. It's the only way the business model would work successfully. I took a slow sip of water, feeling every piece of the puzzle falling into place with devastating clarity. And where would I live? Wherever you want. You could buy a lovely apartment in the city with your share of the proceeds. Something more comfortable, without stairs to climb, without so much physical work to do every day. At your age, Emily, you should be enjoying life, not killing yourself maintaining a 19th century house all alone. At your age. Those 3 words that really meant. You're old, you're useless. It's time to get out of the way. Was this your idea or Daniel's? It was both of ours, actually. Daniel is genuinely worried about you. He's terrified something will happen to you there all alone, that you'll fall down the stairs or get sick, and no one will be around to help you for hours or even days. It's truly for your own good, Emily. We care about your safety. How very thoughtful of them both. Sarah either didn't detect the sarcasm in my voice or simply didn't care.